If you have been watching the news, reading the headlines, you probably think that home buyers have the upper hand in Atlanta right now. We know about the higher interest rates, more inventory, sellers are desperate. We've heard it all, and that's the narrative. But here's what the data actually says. In 4 of the most searched Intown Atlanta school districts, 3 are still a seller's market, and 1 of them is technically balanced on paper, so you're good on paper, boyfriend, but homes are selling at over 102% of list price. So if you have your list price, most of the homes are selling above that. I'll explain which one in just a minute. But no, in some of the in-town neighborhoods, buyers don't have the power. It really depends completely on where you're looking. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today. I'm Erin Coker, and I cover the in-town neighborhoods here in Atlanta. And today I pulled very fresh numbers for the 4 most popular school districts that I get asked about the most. So today we're going to cover Lakeside High School, which is the North Druid Hills area, Chamblee High School, but listen, I'm not going to talk about Chamblee today. I'm going to talk about Brookhaven area of Chamblee High School, the Druid Hills area, and the city of Decatur with City of Decatur High School. I'm going to walk you through what's called the absorption rate for each one. And I'll tell you exactly what that means for buyers and what that means for sellers. And I'll show you where the opportunities actually are right now. Okay, and one quick note before we get into the numbers. Everything that I'm sharing today is single family detached homes only. So I'm not going to cover condos and I'm not going to cover townhomes today. And this is going to be a macro look at each of these school districts and the neighborhoods that surround them. And why this is important is because this is not going to be a street by street. And I will tell you, sometimes numbers can look very different from one neighborhood to the next. But again, just today, I want to give you a general idea of what is happening in these areas. And also, very important to note, when I talk about these numbers, I'm going to be talking about the median price points of these neighborhoods. And I don't talk about the average, because if in one of these neighborhoods, if you have a $2 million sale, but let's say the average home price is $700,000, in that outlier, that $2 million home will greatly skew a neighborhood's numbers. So if you look at the median price, it's just a much more honest picture of what the buyer is actually paying in these different neighborhoods. And I'll explain why this matters, because when you look at the neighborhoods surrounding Chamblee, to go with that median price point compared to the average tells a much different story. Okay, also, if your school district or your specific neighborhood is not covered today, drop it in the comments below and I will run the numbers for you. And all the slides from this video are available as a free download in the description below. Okay, and one more thing to note. Let me explain absorption rate to you, because we're going to be talking about that a lot today. And this is really the most honest metric in real estate, and almost nobody talks about it. You will see dozens of Atlanta market updates on YouTube, but no one is talking about the absorption rate. And the formula is very simple. You take the number of homes that have sold in the last 30 days, and you divide it by the number of active listings, and then you multiply it by 100. That gives you a percentage. And here's how I want you to think about it. So let's say out of every 10 homes listed in a neighborhood, how many of those homes are actually selling? If 2 out of 10, or let's say fewer, so 1 out of 10 of those homes are selling, that's obviously going to be a buyer's market, because each buyer has 10 homes to choose from and only 1 or maybe 2 of them are going to sell. So that, if you do the math, that's an absorption rate below 15%. So if it's below 15%, that means inventory is sitting, home prices are taking price reductions, and buyers have a lot of options and a lot of negotiating power. If it's right around, let's say 2 out of 10, that's going to be more of a balanced market. So we're talking about 15 to 20%. Neither side has a clear edge. but there's room to negotiate on price and terms. But listen, once you get into that 3 out of 10 or more selling, that's really going to be more of a seller's market. That's an absorption rate above 20%. And that means homes are moving, competition picks up, and sellers have leverage. Now, let's look at where each district actually lands. And I know this is a lot of numbers being thrown at you, but if you will download the PDFs below in the description, I lay all this out. And once you kind of see it and understand it, it will be very clear. Okay, today I'm looking at 4 areas, all inside the perimeter, and I'm talking about the areas north of I-20. So Lakeside High School, Chamblee High School, Druid Hills High School, and City of Decatur High School. All right, let's walk through each one. Lakeside High School, so the neighborhoods in the North Druid Hills area, comes in about 38% absorption rate. So that means roughly 4 out of every 10 homes listed are selling each month. That is a seller's market. As of March, there were 74 active listings, 28 of those sold in the last 30 days. And here's what's really interesting. The list to sell ratio is 99%. So that means homes are selling essentially right at their asking price. They're not going over crazy over their asking price, but buyers are not coming in well below asking price and securing the home either. The median price point for this area is going to be around $620,000, and the median days on market is about 9 days. So that means the average home is sitting on the market for about 9 days before it gets a contract on it. Here's my take on why these numbers look the way they do here. The Lakeside High School district is a large geographical area. That's why you see a high number of listings, like 74, which is a pretty high volume. Well, it's really one of the highest volumes of the 4 school districts we're going to look at today. But what's interesting is demand is holding because this is really one of the most accessible in-town school districts at a realistic price point for the buyer that is ready to upgrade their home. That $620,000 median price is actually really attainable for a dual income household targeting in-town Atlanta. And that keeps the absorption rate pretty high and the market moving in that area. Okay, so what does this mean for you as a buyer if you are looking in this area? You need to be ready to move. Get pre-approved before you start looking, know your numbers, so how much you can afford each month, and don't expect to negotiate significantly below asking. The homes that are priced right are not sitting. So maybe you're a seller and you're living in this area. What does this mean for you? You're in really good shape, but this isn't 2021. If you price it right, you present it well, so it's marketed properly, and you'll sell quickly and pretty close to list if it's priced right. Overprice it and you'll sit, and sitting hurts you big time in this market. All right, next up, Chamblee High School, and I'm really looking at the city of Brookhaven for this one. We are coming in right about 27%, so that means 3 out of every 10 homes are selling each month. That puts it in our balanced market territory. There were 34 active listings and 9 sold in the last 30 days. Now, here's where the median versus average conversation becomes really, really important here. The average sold price in this district is a little over $1.2 million, but the median is $1.4. The average is actually lower than the median, which tells us there are a handful of smaller or older homes closing at a lower price point while the majority of the market is still transacting at a premium. The average makes the district look cheaper than it actually is for most buyers. But the median is really the honest number. And I'll tell you exactly why we are seeing this. Because if you take a neighborhood like Ashford Park, we know it. You have homes that sell for 1.2, 3, 4, 5, up past 2 million in that neighborhood, But that $2 million home could be next to that older, maybe 2-bedroom, 1-bath ranch that will eventually be knocked down, and that new construction big house will be built in its place. So that's kind of where you get, or why you get the disparity in that neighborhood. Okay, the list to sell ratio is about 98%. So homes are selling slightly under asking. Median days on the market in that neighborhood is just about 3 days for homes that do sell. So here's my read on this market. The school district is technically Chamblee High School, but the buyer is really buying for Brookhaven. The neighborhood brand carries enormous weight here. Like again, most people want to be in that Ashford Park area, and it justifies the price point. And at that 1.4 million median price, there are naturally fewer buyers in the pool, which is why the absorption rate is lower. But the buyers who are in this market are serious, and they are moving fast when they find the right home. And the 3 days on the market absolutely proves that. Okay, so what does this mean if you are a buyer looking in this area? This is really the most negotiable area in today's group. Homes are selling under list, not a lot under list, but a little bit. You've got a little bit of room to work with on price and terms here. If you were targeting Brookhaven at this price range, you have more leverage here than anywhere else that we are covering today. So if you are a seller, what does this mean for you? You're in a balanced market with real competition from other listings. So pricing strategy and presentation, meaning marketing, are everything. The homes that are selling here are moving relatively fast, but the ones that are overpriced are absolutely sitting. Be honest about where your home lands relative to what's actually closed recently. So if you have an older home that maybe was built in the 90s or early 2000s and you were competing with the newer builds in that neighborhood, you've got to be realistic about where you land on price. You're not going to compete with the brand new construction homes selling at top dollar in that neighborhood. So just adjust for that. All right, next up is Druid Hills High School area. And please note that I'm really talking about the neighborhoods that are surrounding Emory University. The absorption rate is 31%, so 3 out of every 10 homes are selling each month. Technically balanced, but sitting just above that 20% seller's market threshold. There were 32 active listings, 10 sold in the last 30 days. But here's where it gets really interesting in this area. The list to sell ratio in the Druid Hills area is 103%. Homes are selling over asking price. And in a balanced market, which is kind of opposite of what you would think you would see, but that is the most interesting data point of all the 4 school districts that I looked at. So what's driving that, you might ask? Here's my opinion. I think it's really the Emory effect. Proximity to Emory University and Emory Hospital always creates a consistent buyer pool of faculty, physicians, and relocators who are less sensitive than the average buyer. So when the right home comes up, they move quickly and they pay a premium for it. And that's why you're seeing the over to ask ratios in a market that isn't technically a seller's market on the absorption rate number. And it also explains the wide days on market spread in this school district. So the average days on market is 28, but get this, the median is just 4. That gap tells you exactly what's happening. A well-priced, move-in ready home is gone in a matter of days. Overpriced or dated homes are sitting for months and dragging that average up. This is genuinely a tale of 2 markets within the same school district, and the median sold price in this area is $810,000. So, what does this mean if you're a buyer? Don't let balanced market fool you into thinking you can lowball sellers in this area. The good homes that are located here are going over ask. Know the difference between a home that sold in 4 days and one that's set for 140 days. That gap tells you everything about what this market will and won't pay for. So for my sellers, what does this mean for you? You price it right, you present it well, and the market will reward you. We obviously see that in a 103% list over sold ratio. Overprice it and you'll sit in a market where buyers are watching days on market very closely. All right, let's talk about a really popular area of City of Decatur, so City of Decatur High School here. Okay, the absorption rate is about 35%. So about 3 to 4 out of every 10 homes selling each month. This is a seller's market. You have 29 active listings and 10 sold in the last 30 days. Your list to sell ratio is about 98%. So homes are selling just under asking price. Your median sold price in this area is $780,000. Your median days on market is 7 days. And Decatur is really the most straightforward market in today's group. It's healthy, it's competitive, it's functioning. No bidding war frenzy, but no steep discounts either. You're coming in close to asking price, and that's about where you're landing. Here's my take on why City of Decatur is so consistent. City of Decatur Schools creates a captive, motivated buyer pool that doesn't disappear when rates go up. They are not as market sensitive as some other areas. People literally plan for years in advance. It is their goal to get into this school system. It's not just a neighborhood people stumble into. It's really a destination. Families are making intentional decisions to be here, and that steady, committed demand is what keeps this market stable, even when the broader Atlanta market softens. So that's why City of Decatur always holds its value year after year. All right, let's talk about it. So what does this mean for you buyers? Come in prepared to offer close to list. You are not going to come in here and get some major deal and steal a home. Good news is you're also not going to be in a crazy bidding war on every property in this area either. It's just a clean market. So know what you want and move when you find it. Okay, for my sellers, listen, you're in really good shape in this area. Price it right and it'll sell. This school system really does all the heavy lifting for you here. All right, so let me pull all this together for you. 3 of these 4 districts are in seller market territory, but the one that's technically balanced is Druid Hills, but don't be fooled because Druid Hills area is still producing over asking offers on the right homes. That tells you this is not a buyer's market, not in Intown Atlanta anyway, and not at these price points. The people at these price points are less affected by these little interest rate shifts, and they're really in it to get into these school districts, and they have planned for it and they have saved for it. Okay, the number I want you to walk away with is not the absorption rate. It's the median days on market. Lakeside High School area, 9 days. Chamblee, so really high school, so Brookhaven area, Ashford Park neighborhoods, 3 days. Druid Hills, 4 days. City of Decatur, 7 days. When the right home hits the market, it does not last. If you're a buyer and you're not ready, so meaning you're not pre-approved, you're not clear on your budget, you're not clear on non-negotiables, you will miss the homes you actually want. And if you're a seller, the data shows that if you price it right, the market still delivers. But priced right is doing a lot of work in that sentence. This is not a market where you list 10% over recent comps and you wait it out, or you want to bake in a little bit of buffer for negotiations after an inspection report. If your neighborhood wasn't on the list today, drop it in the comments below. I will run the numbers for you. And listen, we can get very micro with these numbers. I can look at your specific neighborhood. I can look at your specific street and tell you exactly where you land. If you are thinking about buying, this next video tells you what types of homes I would personally avoid here in Atlanta. If you are a seller, go to my channel. There are all types of videos out there for you as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.